Hello and welcome to our podcast, The Blossoming Unity. We are Dennis and Nicole, and we are here to introduce you into the conversation about different spiritual perceptions, techniques, and methodologies in order for you to have inspiration for your day-to-day life. Hello and welcome, and hello, Nicole. I hope you are all doing well. Very powerful energy this past week, I must say, just to throw this out there. If you are still feeling the wind turbines from all the stuff that was kicked up, just know it does get easier. Hey, Nicole.
Hi, Dennis. That was a good start. I just know it gets easier at some point. Sometimes it's good to hear that it will.
Yeah, it's like well, that if even in the beginning, in the beginning of the podcast, we say into different methodology, different techniques, for some, just knowing it'll get easier puts them in that vibration and that mindset of going, it puts that reflection of, wow, I've transformed a lot of things in my life. I've been through a lot of chaos and a lot of transformative things, and it does get easier. But what is it within me that's making it harder to move on? Is it something that I'm holding on to in my energies, in my body, in my mind? So then the reflection starts coming. And then, what it's hard as long as you're not reflecting and you don't know what's going on. That's what really makes it harder than it needs to be. In my personal experience, I've noticed when I'm completely in the dark, and that makes it harder, because then it's like, well, where do I point? What is it that's arising?
Yeah.
So the self-reflection definitely makes it easier.
For me, it always was. Even when I'm going now through difficult things or difficult, parts of my existence, like the good thing is knowing that there is a choice in everything you do. Like I just I read a lot of books. I'm a very big bookworm, and I just read that, and I thought about angels and demons, about good and bad, and what I read was it's the angels are of course here to support those who want to have a bigger experience of freedom on this planet, like everyone that is considering themselves a light worker, someone that is like connected to God. That's what I think. And God is love, and love means and God means that you're understanding that you are having a free will, and that everything single thing that you're choosing in this life is underneath. There is your free will, and you just have to understand what's the price you're paying for that. And then on the other hand, with the demons, and with the demons are just like thought structures which are coming in order to serve you, but they're also part of God, but they're what they think, the demons and the darker deities, even Satan and like all of that, all of them, is like there is no free will. That's the only difference. When you're thinking there's the cause and effect, basically, like, and it's really interesting to, like, when I read it, I was like, like that's so beautiful, because all my personal journey, like since in like, I would say like 18 years old, all in my personal journey was about to have the choice to access my free will, to have freedom of choice. I want to be the creator of my own reality, and everything I did and everything I do until today. Also, like every step we do with Ellie Vision, the reason why we did Ellie Vision, the reason why we spread knowledge, why we want to have the experts, why we want to have 1,101 ways to teach about being human, is to give people free choice. That's the only reason why we do it, to understand that you're unique and that you're having a choice. And that's really interesting, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. You know, the big thing about, you know, even the structure of the podcast that we have, we don't know what the hell we're going to talk about when we come into it.
No, we never do.
You know, and you know, I was on live and people were asking me like, "What's the topic this week?" I was like, "We allow it to arise naturally and organically. We don't know what the hell we're going to talk about. We may have some points in our pre-talk that we may touch upon, but it's always something. It's just like, you know, being in the moment and allowing conversation to come from a different place other than something that's planned, because then it won't be organic. The energy, the intention could be there, but at the same time, it's not something that's going to help you recognize the divinity in someone else and something else, and seeing it in other things. So when you brought up freedom, a lot of people are afraid of it.
Of course.
They want freedom, but what is freedom? I think if you allow yourself to go out into the wilderness for one whole day without anything, no cell phone, you know, you can bring like some, like, you know, some food and water and things of that nature, but no technology. Go and see how you feel. And for those of you that do it all the time, notice how you feel after a week of being out there with no phone or anything of that nature. But what I've noticed is when I've tested myself in doing that, especially in the beginning, it was, you know, I'm asking for this freedom. I want to be, you know, free. I want to be liberated from these thoughts, these emotions, all these different things, you know, these patterns and ideas and belief systems. And it was like, every time I go out and I have the freedom at this time when I was experimenting this, every time that I had the freedom, I wanted to go back to what was known because it was uncomfortable. So that's a good entry point in recognizing where you're not allowing yourself freedom.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, we also have to understand, like, when we speak about demons, like, very interesting enough that we're going into this topic today. It's really interesting. When we speak about demons, what's really beautiful about those entities is they're serving you. They're serving your patterns, and you serving your patterns, you're serving them. So this is like you're co-creating your reality with your demon. And there are many healers which are like really good in like exorcism and like getting demons away of your auric field and all of that. That can work for like a couple of days. But when you're not healing the structure underneath that is creating a hole in your auric field so they even can get in, it even can accept, they have an access, that won't help. Like, and that structure underneath, the trauma underneath, basically, that trauma has a self-serving, it serves something, you know, and you don't want to get it away. So for example, let's say, I can take me. Okay. I had severe physical trauma. I had very, very big operations and like severe physical trauma very young. It started when I was 2, and I had like many operations during my childhood and my teen years. And I passed away on one operation and I came back and it was a nightmare. So severe trauma creates holes in your auric field. Also, normal trauma does that, by the way. So you're having holes in your auric field. And my trauma was the trauma of security. I didn't feel secure because of the trauma, of course, because it's so physical. So for a very long time, I was the one who was always sick. And when you're always sick, what it granted me was attention from my parents, from people surrounding me. I was always the victim, and like I literally was. But I didn't want to play that role anymore. And when I started my healing journey, at the beginning, it was a very physical healing journey. It was 15 of the 20 years I'm doing what I'm doing, or 25 years, is like 15 years worth healing the physical body. And the most difficult part was to get rid of the cape of being the one that is sick all the time, being the one that needs to be worried about all the time, because that didn't grant me energy anymore. And you need to decide you want not to be sick anymore. So those structures and do you have another explanation that probably could be good for people? Another example
Freedom?
with freedom?
Is that what you're asking, or?
No, it's like there are mental structures which are, so like, let's say I wouldn't have get rid of my my cape of I'm always the one that is sick, and therefore I get attention, right?
Oh, right. It'd just be a part of your identity.
It is a part of your identity, and therefore a demon will come and serve this specific structure, and he will make you sick again. Like, this energetic demon will make you sick again, like, for sure, because it is serving that mental structure that you're holding in order to get the attention or the security or the love or the connection or whatever it is that you need to have. It's really interesting.
Hmm. And as long as you're identified with it, the more that thought pattern gets fed, the more that energy gets fed, the more attention it gets. So that's why the recognition of, when you took that recognition of, I'm not going to wear this cape anymore. Now, you were able to do it on a physical level, but then there was a whole nother level when it comes to the mental as well. And energetic, because, they, like you were talking about, leaving holes in the auric field, which goes down into the life energies and
Yes.
so on and so forth. But the unveiling of the identification is what's really important. And I think, those teachers that say you're not your body, you're not your mind, that's really what they're trying to get to, but they're saying it in a very cut, straightforward way without having to go into too much detail. Because if you go into too much detail, like, why would they come to your thing?
Totally.
Like, how am I not the mind? How am I not the body? How do I know? See, what I notice with the teachers who are very direct is they'll say, why are you asking me? Why don't you just look? You tell me how you're not. I don't know. Do you know? Do you know 100%? Well, and then the question starts arising. And those teachers are so amazing to watch and how they work, because you can tell people all day long until you're completely not able to speak anymore and your voice is gone. You can tell people everything and they can believe it. But it goes to a point where at that point, it's just words. Sometimes there's words that can point you in the right direction. And I think anyone who's on the seeking path, that does happen because it starts opening things. But you also get to a point in your journey when you realize no one has the answers for you. You have all the answers you're looking for. And anytime you ask a question, your answer's right there. Every time you ask the question, the answer's right there. Where is it coming from? Is the one who's asking the question the one who could understand the question or understand the answer? So I think it's beautiful when I see teachers working in that way, because it's inviting you into your own experience of the divine and whatever that is. Because until you have that real experience beyond the words or beyond anything of that, it's just a concept, and it's not a living experience where you can go, wow, the veil was lifted, and then it came back, crashed down, and then you start seeking more, and then the longing, that deep longing starts. And next thing you know, you're waking up at 3 a.m. doing yoga, chanting.
That can happen. Shit like that happens all the time. All of a sudden you're like, oop, how did that go? How did I become a monk? It's really beautiful. There is this saying, when you're waking up at 4 or 3 in the morning and you're doing yoga and you're going into the mantra and meditation and all of that, you're living like a monk life. But there's also this other thing, when you're up all night and you're sleeping during the day, that's the life of a mystic.
Mm.
And I think it's really, like, I don't know how about you, but I think you have that too. I have, sometimes it's the monk life that I'm living more. And
Yeah.
at the current moment, for me, it's the mystic's life that I'm living more. I'm not getting up at 4 anymore because it's just impossible, because I cannot sleep until 2. So I'm up like very, very late, which I was never. Like, I always used to get up at 4 or 5 and then do the yoga. And now it's like, it's like all new.
Yeah.
You know, about the big teachers, I think what's really important to understand is spiritual awakening is not the awakening in the logic mind.
Mm.
It's the awakening. It's a very somatic experience. And like, I see that with my clients in trauma therapy. Like, when I tell them, like, when someone is asking me like, oh, Nicole, how does that work in trauma therapy? And like, look, I can tell you like all the details of the technique that I'm using with EMDR and why it works and yada, yada, yada. But until you are in a session with me and until you have the somatic experience of the release of the traumatic experience through the trauma therapy technique, you will never get it, because it's a somatic experience. And that's that's why it's so difficult to sell. Like, you cannot sell that to anyone, because the only thing you can do is like you can hold the vibration of inner freedom, of choice. And the only thing you can do is as a therapist, like, this is probably for all the therapists, you can emanate the freedom, the healing vibration that you are holding through your own journey. And then it is possible for clients to be attracted. But other than that, like, spiritual awakening, you have to find it out for yourself, what's working and what's not. Like, I personally don't believe in demons, like, as gods and entities, or it's just not how I function. But I used to, back in the days when things happened to me and I didn't know what it was. I used to believe that I was the victim of these entities. But it's all resonance. When there is something coming up in your life that you don't like, it has to do with you. It's very simple. It's yours, because it's serving you. Everything on this planet, like, and that's very difficult, because I work a lot with women which were raped. And this is a difficult thing to say. Like, even the rapists, even the people that are doing you the worst, like, if someone hits you, or like if you had very, very bad childhoods, even that on a soul level is serving its purpose, in order to give you an experience of something bigger that you wanted to have, in order to find what you want to have. So let's say you were abandoned by your parents, and you grew up in a foster care, and you had a very rough childhood. That abandonment and that disconnection is serving your soul's highest goal, to connect, to experience oneness. Because only when you're experiencing division, you can then seek oneness, right? Only when, like,
You gotta know it. Yeah. I mean, that's all you've experienced is the division.
yes. And then, but only because of that, you can start to search oneness in
Mm.
like, for example, or for me, I had cancer when I was 2. I had chemotherapy. I lost my hair. I had radiation therapy. Like, I was like very isolated during my childhood due to that trauma. And then with the back operation, like it's a very severe trauma, right? And you could think, oh my God, this is like, it's such a bad experience. Yes, it was, but it was serving. I wanted to learn how to heal. I would have never learned how to become a healer of this new age, to speak about the cells and how the cells are holding out vibration, and to understand, to teach them after how healing is working, if I didn't have this experience, right? So what I want to say with that is, like, in the theater of your life, everything you experience is serving your highest purpose on this planet. And if you don't like what you see, you're still holding destructive structures in your emotional mind or in your body, which are like vibrating that out into the cosmos, so you can attract those things in that you don't like. You do that on purpose, and you do it. It's your responsibility. And that's self-empowerment, but it's also very heavy to understand. It's a very heavy teaching.
Like when you were talking about what was it? I put a bookmark in it. You were talking about questions with the mind. So when I spoke about
That one.
who's the one that's asking the questions.
Yeah.
So when you ask that question, and I have nothing wrong with questions, but when you ask that question, is the one that's asking the questions that you're very emotionally invested in the one who's keeping you from the answers? Because by asking those questions, it keeps you further from the truth.
It is possible, yes.
Because if you know that you are it, right? You take full responsibility for it. You've experienced it. You've had the mojo happen. Then that means any of those questions don't matter. They don't matter in essence, because you know it would be coming from a place that is keeping you from the place of knowing. It's very tricky.
Yes, I think in German there is this expression, which is called, there are different ways to go to Rome. There's the city Rome. Like, expression. There are many different ways to Rome. And in spiritual awakening, or in the spiritual journey, for me at least, it feels the same. Like, what's really fascinating to me, because I studied so many teachers, I studied so many different techniques and methodologies, that, and every single one says this is the true way, this is the way you need to go. So yes, asking the question in the first hand is probably keeping you from the deepest essence of the answer, but it allows you to understand that there is even a question to be asked. Sometimes people are so associated with their 3D reality, and they're still so associated with their physical body, or their physical reality. And what that question allows is to dissociate first and foremost from the identity of the self. Of course, this is not going direct to the answer, but sometimes some steps in between are necessary.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. What I'm trying to say, maybe there's a better way I can put it. So let's say you're asking the question from someone else, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
You asking that question for someone else, they're going to give you some bullshit no matter what, no matter who it is. It don't matter who it is. If anybody else ever tells you who you are, 100%, they're bullshitting you because they're feeding you a concept. That's not who you are. Only you can know that. Only you can ask yourself that question. Now, when you're asking yourself that question, then it's different. What I'm saying with the questions is when you start directing those questions from the place of the one who can never understand the answers, ever, no matter what's fed to it, ever. Because it's the wiring of the intellect. It's only supposed to dissect. So you got that question. Okay, let me feed you this. Yeah, here you go. Here's some scraps. Then the next question comes, and then the next question, the next question. Therefore, you're so full of it. You're full of shit.
No,
but what I'm saying is I'm not against questions. What I'm saying is when you're able to be aware enough is where is the question coming from?
yeah.
That's the big thing. In recognition.
Yeah, and still, I think some people, for me, that whole approach on how you awake spiritually and how you evolve in that and all of that. What did you?
112 ways.
12.
112, but you can only do 108 of them physically.
That's the chakras. Yeah. So, but the question on the journey is like, for me, like every person has chosen before she or he starts the incarnation, its teacher, its own innate teacher. Meaning, my teacher was my physical body. My physical body, due to the storyline that I chose, was teaching me what I needed to learn or what I wanted to learn in this lifetime. Someone else's teacher is their emotion. So they're having an emotional body which is like out of control and completely nuts. And then the emotional body is the teacher. Like learning how to control your emotions, learning, like that's all those people that are highly sensitive and all of that. Like they're needing to learn that. Some of the people have chosen their mind, their mental body as their teacher. And like going nuts and going crazy and hearing voices and, all of that. And so I think that where you start to come deeper into your essence, into the juicy thing is it's also a question on where do you come from? Like what did you choose to enter as a starting point? And then, yes, of course, when you're choosing the mind as your teacher and then asking questions is the wrong thing. It's just not the right approach because the mind is just giving you bullshit. But for example, when someone has the physical body as a teacher, like me, for me, it was really important for my healing journey, it was really important to ask questions in order to understand what's going on in my physical body. It was really important. And I think there are just 112 different ways of approaching reality of the spiritual awakening.
Oh, definitely.
And I mean, for example,
master all of them.
Religions build on one of them. Like as Sadhguru said, this teaching, the 112 chakras and the 108, which you can really like work on. And this is also the reason why malas have 108 beats. And like there's a whole bunch of teachings behind that. But what's really, I probably should not do that. What's really interesting about that is, it's so bad, no. For those of you that are listening, like I'm holding a pen in my hands and I'm like looking like a teacher, like and I'm waving my hands because I cannot talk without my hands, which is also a tragedy in itself. But I'm Italian, so it's okay. So those teachings from Sadhguru, like one of the 108 ways you can learn how about spirituality is the teaching of compassion. That's one. And Sadhguru says, like, the Buddhists, the most Buddhists are working on the compassion, and that's one of the 108 ways. Wow. And there is a whole religion built on it. Like,
Yeah,
it's amazing, no? That's approximately the depth that you can get from a human incarnation.
they're preparing for not this lifetime, but the next.
Yeah, but again, it's a question, what are you subscribing to? Like,
Yeah, that's not my subscription. I want to transform this lifetime right here, right now. There's no more waiting. No, there's this deep longing within me that's constantly there. That's like, nope, 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 no settling. I don't strive for peace. Peace is a birthright, honestly. That's the bottom of the totem pole.
yeah,
Peace. Blast out in outer space on a regular basis. You're just sweating with ecstasy. What? And when you want to talk to people about this, they look at me like, that's impossible. What? I'm sweating in ecstasy. It's just sweating. Yeah. I've had experiences where it was all of a sudden and I'm just because you just can't explain it. Everything is just so like, you just look at everybody and everything, you're just like, oh wow, this is great. And you're totally sober. You probably just drank some water and you're just, regular old regular. Great meditation. All of a sudden, blasted. You turn really, really hot. Everything turns really, really hot. You start sweating. Like right now, I'm sweating. I'm burning up. My energy is just going. But you're just sweating and you're just, you can't explain it. Ecstasy is probably the easiest word to say, but it's not that.
no. Yeah.
Yeah. But not everyone wants to transform all the way. Some people just want to live a good life, very easy life where they don't have, emotional baggage and mental diarrhea.
Your spiritual journey is first and foremost defined by the thing that you're subscribing to. Let's say someone is has been grown up in a Catholic church like we do. You and I did, right? It's
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
school. Me too. I even did this thing in church where you like worked in the those English words.
First Holy Communion, you have a bunch of different steps
I
you
did
have to
work
take.
in church for like as a child with the ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is your subscription model that you took the in this life? So I grew up in Catholic Church. In Catholic Church, as in many Abrahamian religions like Judaism, Islam, Christianism in general, you're subscribing to the subscription model. There is one life. There are 10 rules to be followed. There are 7 deadly sins. By the way, these are demons. And then at the end of the life, and then there's a God which is not within you. It's in the heavens, that God. There are angels. And at the end of the life, there's a kind of an accounting department. You're dying, you're going to the accounting department, and then there's the accountant there, and he's like, ding, 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 ding. And then he's like, heaven or hell. That's
Great marketers. They were absolutely great at marketing.
amazing marketing. Okay, but all of them, like, it's a religion. It was amazing at a certain time, right? Like, even like the Jewish community, the Muslim community, like, that's the subscription model. So if someone has as a subscription model, God is without, not within, it's without. It's like outside of me. And there is this one God, and I pray to God, and I pray, and I give my best, and I follow the rules that I know, and I pray to God, and I try to be as decent as possible. And then, like, God grants you things. It's not I create my reality. It's like, I pray to God, and please, please, dear God, please send me someone that loves me, and please, dear God, grant me some children, and please, dear God, yada yada yada. You know, the prayers are going out. That's a completely different spiritual model than in the Taoistic, the Hinduistic, the Buddhist religions, where you're like, God is within, you are God, you create your reality, you learn in this lifetime to come back into another lifetime. You, like, it's a completely different thing. Like, when we're saying, like, you need to meditate, and you need to do yoga, and you need to go within, that is only possible when you're like finding God within. That's like contradictory to everything every Abrahamic religion ever told you. And that's a human conundrum. It's really a problem for a lot of mental structures. Like, when you grew up, like, I mean, I know, I can tell you, like, when my dad, for example, I'm still in the Catholic Church. I did not get out of, like, here you could get like out of church, but I'm still in Catholic Church because my dad, for him, it would be the worst thing ever if I would get out of there. And I just don't want to do that. But the thing is, me being in there means that I'm still part of a collective, thought pattern, of a collective belief system that is like not the highest vibration. It's a choice. And again, there is free will. I could say, yeah, I don't care, I just get out of church because yada yada yada. And then, or like I did now, I'm deciding, like, no, I can handle that energetically. I just do whatever I need. But your spiritual practice is defined by the main goal of the spiritual belief system that you're subscribing to. And to understand that, and to understand what's my old belief system and what's my new one, that's why people are so offended when I say, or when teachers say, like, you have to meditate. And or when people say, like, there are other lifetimes that you have, like, that's an offense to an Abrahamic person, right? No, there's only one life. And like, make it count or make it not count. But or God, like, all that, all those people that are having billions, all those billionaires, they're like, yeah, God granted me a good life and blah, and you just have to be thankful and pray. And yeah, or you're the creator of your own reality. Like, depends. What do you
I think a
think?
really big trigger with a lot of people is when you tell them not to believe anything, when you tell them don't identify with anything.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
Because, like, even if you notice, your belief system is dying with a particular thing, then you're able to recognize, wow, this was like, look at all of the cluster of thought patterns, emotional patterns, energy that was invested in this belief system. And I'm recognizing that it's dying, and that's why it's being perceived as painful, because now I'm tapping into the unknown, but something has to fill its space. But should I hold the space? Should I go into the space? Should I run away from the space? Maybe I'm just going to run away because it's so painful. I don't want to embrace it because I've been trained that anything unknown you need to run from because it's scary and it's going to be like something that's scared me in the past or something that could possibly happen in the future. It's like a whole clusterfuck.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't think, but what I've noticed with myself is when I see belief systems and I sit there and I become completely present, like full on present, everything goes, everything, all my sensory perceptions all enhance, but I'm able to also hone into the fact that I'm in this space of nothing, just nothing. And I know I'm nothing. I don't see myself as a human being anymore. I know I'm in a body. I know I'm using these emotions and all that, but
There's no
there's a
identification.
there's a space there that has no beliefs. There's no beliefs, and you're still completely perceiving and experiencing life, and it's lighter. It's so much lighter. It's not heavy. You don't take things so seriously. You choose to have fun and see fun in things. You actually find more wonder in life in that space because you look at, even like looking at your phone. You're like, wow, they really put a lot of design work into this thing. Like what? Like, and just embracing your phone that you're on every single day that you never really truly pay attention to. You just, but bringing that attention, and then you're able to bring that attention with the people that you're having communications with, right? You're communicating with other people, then you're seeing it within them, as you, as them. But that person is no longer in front of you. You understand we're all wearing it, yeah, of course, but you see them as life itself, and they're not separate from you because you're experiencing the life at the same time. Oh yeah, that's all I could say.
Yeah, I think what's really important is to understand that belief systems, they have a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm.
Like a belief system doesn't want to die because it's an existing, it's like a belief system is like an energetic entity, and it doesn't want to be dead, it doesn't want to be obsolete, it wants to be stay alive. That's why when Dennis is saying like becoming nothing and understanding through nothingness you're everything, and understanding that through nothingness you are everything outside of you, and you're connected to the life's essence basically. um that is like, that's a question of vibration, like to hold that presence means that you're just having a very high vibration already. Like nobody can hold that vibration that is still identified with a belief system.
Let's do a little practice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need your help, okay?
Yes.
All right. So when I tell you to, I'm gonna have you just say any random sentence that comes to your mind, but just speak, and speak from that presence, speak from that spaciousness. Just be there with it. But first, everyone that's listening, pay attention as I hit this bowl. Pay attention to how the sound starts to almost travel away. You have the first, and notice how it starts ringing farther and farther away. Notice how there's no sound now, and then one more. Follow the stillness as you hear it through and through the underlying presence. Now, Nicole, say whatever sentence you want to say, and just pay attention to the presence underneath her words, around her words. Just see the presence, feel the presence.
You may leave the presence of your body and fly up high in the sky and travel throughout the world, travel over seas, over fields of greenery, over the mountains, and recognize that all there is underneath you is in essence you.
Beautifully spoken. See, did you notice how that presence was always there? Even as the words arise, just like it's coming from presence, and the presence never disappears. Now, when you pay attention to the conversations with people that you're having, and you're focused on the presence as you're speaking with them, you're focused on the presence as you're listening to them, now you're adding a whole nother dimension of life. Now, enhancing your perception is enhancing the dimension of your life, the infinite amount of dimensions we can be going into. Now, when you start tapping into these other dimensions, and you tap into that dimension, will open the gateway to whatever experiences you shall have after that. But just that little practice there, doing it every morning, a part of your morning, daily practice, your morning meditation, it's very important. Yeah, you don't do it without the energy of feeling the pull of it. Do it from that presence, that state of I'm here, I am. And just watch the magic happen. Just watch it.
Um, Eckhart Tolle really said it nicely as well. He said, recognize the life force within everybody you meet, within everything you meet. Like when you're coming from that point of inner presence, and you're recognizing the inner presence of the person in the bakery that you're going on, the cashier in the grocery store, and the dog waiting in front of the door of the grocery store, even in your car or your mobile phone, or the tree in the front of your house, or the bush or the grass, or when you're like the recognition of life force within everything that surrounds you. And it's difficult to start with everything. So when you're starting that journey, I highly recommend to do, for example, to try to be aware of this life force within everybody you meet during the day, online or offline. Like even when you're scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, like you're watching a video and then you're like, huh, what's there within me is also there within everybody that I see. Then you start to feel your life force moving throughout your body and moving in your life, which is like a complete different kind of vibrational field than just like randomly walking through life.
And for those of you who think people are assholes and you're not lying to yourself about it, start with a flower, start with your dog, and notice the presence within the dog, notice the presence within the flower, within the tree, within the bird, just sitting in the grass, feeling, the blades of grass, or being able to recognize the snow and the presence within that as well, the life force within that. Because, if you can't stand people, you be honest about it. First of all, don't lie to yourself. Then you're able to actually move forward and being like, oh, okay, I can't stand people, but why? What is it that I can't stand about people? What is it that I can't stand about this situation? And it's not, and it may come from a deeper place as well within that presence. Like, oh, is there something that I had picked up because I'm doing shadow work and I'm recognizing, wow, this is a pattern I picked up from so and so, or back and forth. But if you have a hard time with people, start with a flower or, a dog, so you can recognize it, and then you're able to see it in people. And when you're able to do it with people, maybe something changes within you and you don't hate them anymore.
I think when you're hating people, and when you're like um suffering around people a lot, what's really helpful is to not judge yourself, because there is a reason. The reason why you don't like people is because your wounds, the wound in your heart is still bleeding very heavily. That was caused by people, and the bleeding of your heart is to be recognized at first in order to heal. You have to recognize that you're wounded in order to create a band-aid on, or how do you say, is the band-aid the right word?
Band-aid is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what.
In order to have a band-aid on the wound. So yeah, it's really important to not judge yourself for
Mm.
who you are.
And who you are in this moment right here, who you
I did.
identify
You're making yourself.
as
I love that.
like that's actually a beautiful point. It's identification. Do you identify as Dennis? Do I identify as Dennis? You know, when I'm in a conversation with somebody, am I identifying as the character Dennis, or am I just being there with them and holding that spaciousness and being responsible for my emotions and for my thoughts? Am I able to be there and listen without the intent of reply? So then it's a genuine conversation, not the constant, anytime, you're talking to somebody, it's constantly, like you're playing hopscotch, or what is that, double dutch? When you that might be an American thing. The Americans listening, or maybe they have it in other countries as well. But I remember when I was a kid, you'd have two jump ropes and you would spin them around like this in circles.
Oh,
One counterclockwise, one, yeah, and then you have to like get close, and then you're gonna jump into it. You're gonna jump into the jump rope, and you're gonna jump. So it's almost like that. A lot of people are afraid to jump into it because there's two ropes coming at them, and they're gonna just jump freely into it. So recognizing that as well, but really have patience. You just observe, pay attention to the presence. Just adding that dimension, that 1% can drastically change, because you've been experiencing life without any percentage. You're at point one, 0.01. And we get you to 1%, your whole life will completely change. Completely, just at 1%.
well, that's 9 times more than you're currently doing. So yeah,
I think that was a beautiful talk. What do you think?
very nice. I'm happy with it.
Likewise.
Amazing.
And if you've made it this far, I want you to go to Nicole's Instagram and put the comment, "I'm having fun," or "I'm transforming." I'm transforming.
Ooh.
Comment under one of Nicole's posts, "I'm transforming." Also, if you're looking for, day-to-day yoga, day-to-day breathing exercises, meditation, so much more. If you're looking for a great read on spiritual content and expansion within business, lifestyle, shadow work, trauma therapy, definitely check out Alley.vision. And then we have My Alley, where you can subscribe monthly, and there's also some new treats that'll be coming to you hopefully very soon. But meditation, yoga, the works, we can be a part, you can be a part of the daily practice that we love to do every day, the transformation. And when you do things together collectively, though this is a very unified experience within us, when you do it collectively, you recognize the power that's there. So if you feel called, definitely check us out.
That was very beautiful. We're sending out, like, I'm really excited. We're sending out this week a newsletter. Every full moon, we're doing a newsletter, and this week is the first week that we're having all the business teachings on the newsletter.
Yeah.
So cool. And I wrote an article about the metaverse and Web3 and why a daily practice and why understanding your physical body is so important for this a new reality to kick into people's lives, and
Mm.
about why Corona was so important for the people to have online meetings and to understand their online personalities better, and how AI is building them. So I'm so excited about this newsletter. So if you're interested in that, there is an option to subscribe to it for free, of course. Yeah.
Beautiful. You all have a beautiful week, and we will see you next week, same time. Hopefully, we never know. That's always the plan. That's always the schedule. But life happens. We never know. But also, if you haven't checked out the Weekly Tarot Collective, it's free on YouTube, or you can check it out on Ellie Vision. It is great. So, love you guys. Have a beautiful week.
Have an amazing week, you guys. Thank you for listening. Bye.